Restless have asked me to share my thoughts on the massive potential benefits of being a self-employed freelancer instead of being an over 50s employee. This is especially for you if you've never been self-employed before, because don't be intimidated. In the UK, it's actually easy to be self-employed, and I'll share one incredibly important benefit of freelancing for the over 50s that you might not know about, but could quite seriously change and improve your future life. A little bit about me. I'm 65. I've been a full-time freelancer for 43 years. I'm now semi-retired as a freelance conference MC, an online TV producer and presenter, and a video interviewer. Except for 3 years when I was at the BBC on contract, and I ended up doing something which does tend to impress people, but nobody wants to look impressed.
And talking of the happily married, P. Sutton of Whitley Bay gushes.
Has no one written to Points of View to compliment the lovely girl chosen as Bride of the Year for the clothes show? She looked absolutely stunning and was so relaxed and natural.
Such a young voice. In the meantime, I've taught tens of thousands of people how to be freelance. In fact, a few decades ago, I offered the government online courses for freelancers, but their procurement department refused to talk to me as a one-man band. They would only talk to larger organizations, which kind of demonstrated how they were completely missing the point. Today, we know the government is trying desperately hard to persuade the over 50s to go back to work. As well-meaning as it is, perhaps, it's totally divorced from the reality of the current world of work. I mean, to be fair to the government, they know there's a skills shortage in this country and need more people to get back to work. And so many over 50s have valuable skills. Sadly, though, most of the jobs offered for people over 50 don't reflect that skill level and are often poorly paid with terribly unsociable hours. I mean, so who in their right mind would do that unless they absolutely had to? Now, it's partly because more and more employers can't afford to pay for our skills on a full-time basis. But many are actually very prepared to pay you more per day if it's on a project basis. So that's a win-win for everybody. The government fails to recognize why so many of us took early retirement in the first place. I mean, there was the daily grind, the commuting, the stress and the increasing pressure. We have no downtime. It's affecting mental health and well-being. I mean, perhaps you're fed up with internal petty office politics or working for lousy bosses and managers. And I have to say, younger colleagues who think they know more than you, and lots of other types of ageism and discrimination. Now, with the cost of living increases, though, it's possible to earn decent money using your existing skills as a freelancer without taking an old-fashioned job. So, go to the HMRC website, which is very helpful, actually. Pause the video and scan the QR code on the screen. It will tell you exactly what you need to do in relation to things like national insurance and stuff like that. As of this moment, you can call yourself self-employed and charge money for work you do for clients. I mean, it really is that easy. I'm not an accountant or a lawyer, so I'm just giving some general advice here. For many people, they don't know this incredibly important distinction between being employed, which is on a salary or a wage, and being self-employed. When you have a job, you pay tax on your gross income. We all know that. But as a self-employed person, you pay tax on your profit. And this is an incredibly important difference. Let me explain why. As a self-employed person, you can offset all your legitimate business expenses against your income. So if you decide to turn, say, a hobby into a lifestyle business, in your accounts, your expenses get deducted from your income, leaving a loss or a profit. And you only pay tax if there's a profit. For example, I make lots of videos and I get paid for that. But it means I had to buy some equipment, which is set against my income. Buying capital items like equipment is a little bit more complicated than that from an accounting perspective, but not much. If you need to buy specialist equipment, you may need professional advice on that. But if self-employment is your only source of income, it's obviously impossible to trade long-term at a loss. But If self-employed work is a side hustle and is used maybe to top up your pension or investment incomes, in theory and just on paper for tax purposes, you can show that you're trading as a freelancer at a loss. So your freelance business can be a lifestyle choice and pay for your hobby. But you absolutely must keep a record of all of your expenses and be able to prove to HMRC that those expenses were incurred solely for your business. Before you start freelancing, you need to think long and hard about what clients would be prepared to pay you for. And this is so important. Don't undervalue what you know and what you can do for clients who would be prepared to pay you. Your experience or skills may be very valuable and worth far more than you think at the moment. I mean, only a few days ago, actually, I was chatting to a friend who was just retired. And admittedly, he does have specialist knowledge, but he's already been asked to do some consulting work for £1,800 per day. Now, some might say, no one is worth that. But the reality is, you are worth what someone is prepared to pay you. So ask your friends and former colleagues what they think you're best at. You may get a few useful surprises. Another friend told me something brilliant. If you're a consultant, don't call yourself one. He said, describe yourself as an advisor. And I said, what's the difference? He said, consultants have to write reports. Advisors don't. Brilliant. I love that. One more thing. Even if your freelancing is casual, always create a simple written contract with your client. Just a letter or email outlining and confirming what you'll do and the agreed fee and when you'll be paid. Whatever you do, you must make sure it's a contract for services, not an employment contract. That's really, really important. And one more word of warning, don't confine all or most of your freelance work to just one organization or client, perhaps your former employer. This could open you up to the possibility that you'll fall foul of something called IR35. You may need to look that up. You really don't want to get caught up in IR35. So once you're clear about what you're going to do, my advice is don't create a company name, just use your name as a sole trader. That then gives you flexibility to do whatever you want to any number of different types of clients. As an older worker, you probably have one incredibly valuable hidden asset, your network of contacts, which you've probably built up over many, many decades. There is gold in those contacts, but don't ask them for work. I mean, you heard me right. Don't ask them for work. Do this instead. Get in touch with those who trust you the most and simply tell them, I'm thinking about starting a side hustle freelance business, doing whatever it is that you're doing. Can I ask your advice? If you were me, who would you contact about doing some business? And what would you charge? By not putting them on the spot, some may tell you they'd be interested, but that's not the objective. You want them to come up with some names. Then you ask if they'd be kind enough to introduce you. I don't recommend you spend money on advertising or brochures or anything like that. Perhaps just mention what you're doing on social media. This is how to get started at no cost and therefore low risk. You're just testing the freelance market. You can do all this entirely on your terms. And if you say only want to work 2 days a week, just do 2 days. If you get asked to work more, simply say you're fully booked. You really don't have to explain you only work 2 days a week. That's nobody else's business. And it also has the added advantage of making it look like you're in high demand. I hope these thoughts have been helpful to you. I'm totally convinced that self-employed freelancing would be a far better option for a lot of us over 50. It certainly works for me. You can earn decent money by applying your depth of knowledge and expertise, which this country does need. You'll therefore be making a valuable contribution to society, but totally on your terms. Good luck.